thinking, I wouldn't wish this on anybody. So I want to get your thoughts on that. But first, we got to get Richie's thoughts on the Giants. Of course, former Giants shortstop doing big things at ABC Sports Bay Area. Current analyst on Giants pre- and post-game live. Richie, it's been a long time. Good morning to you, Richie. How you doing today?
Good, guys. How you doing?
Oh, we're doing fine. My boy Shashi over here was doing fine at 6:15. Then at 6:25, he started breaking down the team, and he went crazy because his team is losing. And it feels like we're back in 2023 again, Richie. They're down at one starting pitcher. What is going on with this team?
You said you were bringing me on to talk about some stuff. There's not much to talk about except bad stuff. Listen, every team gets beset by injuries, and in spring training, the comment is, well, if we stay healthy, we'll be pretty good from every team. But listen, they've been hit by injuries, and the guys who haven't been injured really haven't performed up to par yet. And I don't know, I use the word yet, but we're not at a point of the year where you can still say it's early, I think from what I heard yesterday, I think they have the second or third worst record in the National League. It's not a good place to be, kind of where you want to, you're going into the All-Star break here coming up in a few weeks, and you kind of want to go into that hot and get some momentum going in the second half. But, what their schedule looks like coming up, that's going to be really hard to do, I think, for this club, especially if they don't get some pitching back.
Yeah, and the pitching has been it's been an issue. Starting pitching has been an issue, no doubt about it. And the thing that we got to get into, Richie, is like, I'm teaching a bunch of 12-year-olds the proper way to hold runners on and to slow down the running game. And it's very difficult. And it's something at the big league level you don't talk a lot about on the radio or on television until it's like a nightmare. Now, Patrick Bailey has one of the fastest pop times, so he gets rid of it very quickly. But now you're only able to throw over 3 times. And so having an A move as you disengage or step off and throw over is very important, how you utilize those. And then guys are timing them up. Like, we're not mixing in slide steps. It's a lot of high leg kicks. Like, there's a variety of issues here. But how has it gotten so bad? How are they, like, I know they know this, like, it's yesterday was just driving me crazy, and it's Logan Webb, who's a great player. He's a great player. I was so frustrated, and Bailey's in a no-win situation. What is going on with controlling the running game?
Well, number one, I'll start with this. For years, before they implemented these new rules, there really was no running game. I mean, there was maybe a guy, or in the last, let's say 7 or 8 years prior to these new rules of throwing over. I mean, maybe there was 1 or 2 guys in the league that stole 30 bases. I mean, maybe, if my memory serves me correctly. So I think, one, that the protocol on how to do it is not there, right now, at least not yet. And 2, listen, I actually think Logan Webb's probably one of their better guys. He's a veteran. He slide steps. He's kind of quick to the plate. And the other guys are, they're just getting taken advantage of right now. And I think that rule, I mean, now that listen, I've heard about this for the last 2 weeks now covering the team. It's a popular topic where teams are just hearing that, you can just run on these guys whenever you want. And then you flip to the other side with Bailey. Yeah, he's a great defensive catcher. And he has a great pop time, but and I'm not saying he's doing anything wrong, but I don't see another catcher in baseball throwing the way he does to bases. He comes out from behind home plate, really quick sideways, and then he has to throw sidearm. And I think that's part of that is because he's trying to be even quicker, to get the ball there. And we saw early in the year, his accuracy was just not good.
Agreed.
And so I think now where, you're in a spot of, kind of, what are you going to do? It's over 80 stolen bases this year and not even half the season. So I think it's something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, no speed, athleticism, 25 stolen bases for the Giants. They're giving up stolen bases at a rapid rate. The voice you hear is Rich Aurilia, of course, former Giants shortstop, now an NBC Sports Bay Area, good friend of the program here. Richie, I'm looking at the pitching, and at some point it feels like Jordan Hicks is going to go to the bullpen because he hasn't pitched this long in the season before. He's already eclipsed his career high in innings pitched in the season. Kyle Harrison's on the IL. Blake Snell, that situation has been an absolute disaster. We have no idea what we're going to get from Robbie Ray. And this stretch coming up where you got 13 against the Cubs, Dodgers, Braves, Guardians, this could possibly alter the mindset of Farhan Zaidi into saying, hey, I'm going to buy playoffs. It's all about the playoffs too. Do I have to think about selling? That's what's coming up, Richie.
I think you're right. I mean, listen, this organization, we've talked about it in years past. It's hard. It's hard to get a complete rebuild because of what the fan base is used to, right? So, but if you have players that are, I guess maybe not under contract next year that are possibly movable, do you try and move them? The only thing that hinders that is the fact that there's so many teams that make the playoffs, and there's so many teams that are still kind of within a striking distance of a wild card spot or in the mix for a wild card spot. It's hard to just just pack it up and go.
Right.
But the thing is, it's hard moving forward when you don't know where your injured guys are coming back, and you don't know how. Let's just go examples, right? You don't know. Cobb should be back, after the break, and Ray should be back at some point, but he's going to be on a pitch count, and then Snell should be back, but. What are you going to get? And I think now, I'm speaking mostly of the pitching, but, you got to get some guys on the offense hitting the ball too. And, you look at yesterday's box score and, you got 2 hits and 10 strikeouts. It's not a good combination. And, so at some point, I think as a front office, as a person who runs the organization, you have to think about possibly moving some pieces.
What are you seeing in the last, 5 games or so, 5-6 games here for Ramos? He hasn't had a multi-hit game since only 1 hit over that period. I know it's a small sample, but are you seeing something from him at the plate that's different, or is it just a rough stretch? The guy was lights out for 2 months, so, you're expecting him to downtick a little, but have you seen anything in his at-bats that should concern Giants fans?
I haven't really seen too much. He doesn't really chase too much, which I think would be a big issue. I think what I've noticed lately, though, is he's very good, especially this year. I didn't notice this in the previous years when he's been up, but he's very good at staying inside the ball, meaning like keeping his hands inside and hitting the ball pretty good the other way. And when you have success like that, word gets around the league with scouting reports and stuff like that, where now I feel like, he's still staying inside the ball, but he's getting pitched a little bit more in. And, that's where the game always comes down, right? Pitchers and hitters, right? It always comes down to who can make the adjustment first. So I think right now he's probably getting pitched in a little bit more and not getting the barrel there and to his pull side. So I think, he's just going to have to make some small adjustments, whether it be approach or mentally, to just kind of react to that ball inside a little bit better. And, and once you do that, if they're throwing you in, once you take a good fastball and hit it out of the park, left field, the whole plan changes again. So I think that's the only thing I've really noticed with him. He's had a really good run. I know he had a really rough road trip, but, and listen, I'm not making excuses for him, but, I hated hitting at Wrigley Field, man. I hated hitting at that place.
Why is that?
And I haven't been there in years, but
why? Why'd you like?
I felt like everything was on top of me. Like I felt like the pitcher wasn't 60 feet away. I felt like he was like 50 feet away, and I felt like the backstop of the fans behind you were really close. And then when I played there, and I talked to other players that played in my day, I always felt like home plate was facing right center field. Like, so you'd step in the box and like, you look at the pitcher and you're like, why does he feel like he's behind me or something? It was just a weird visual for me. I'm sure they've fixed some of that now, but it's not an easy place to hit. It's kind of nice when the wind blows out, but it doesn't blow out all the time. So I'm not making an excuse for him, but sometimes there's some ballparks where you just don't hit as well as you do in others.
Well, Ramos, he joined the Morning Roast last week, Richie. At that point, he was batting .387 in the month of June. He's now batting .298 in the month of June. So we call it the Morning Roast jinx. He's 1 for 22 since his appearance on the show. So blame us. Blame us for his struggles.
Way to go, guys. Way to go.
Way to go. No, I can't take accountability for Blake Snell. And it sounds like he's not returning soon. What do you make of him telling reporters yesterday that he needs a few more rehab starts because he wants to be back at 100%?
Well, I think he's being honest. I think I'm not saying he's embarrassed, but it didn't go the way he wanted to go from day one in free agency. I'm sure, you're sitting around, still sitting around in spring training. You finally sign, and then you throw a couple like simulated games, and then you come out and you don't do well, and you keep coming out, you don't do well. So there's something to be said for a level of preparation for a season and how you go about it. So I think that what he's feeling now is a sense of, well, I've done this twice already. I've come out of spring training, and then I've come back from the first injury, and I have not been myself or what he expects of himself. And I think it's just a feeling of him being honest, saying like, listen, man, I really want to come back and pitch the way I'm capable of. I don't want to be 80% or 90% of myself. I want to be 100% myself. And I think that's the feeling, at least what I'm taking from that comment from Blake Snell, because, listen, if they're going anywhere, this was a big signing for them. They're going to need him, but they need him as the Blake Snell of last year in 2 Cy Young Awards. They don't need the Blake Snell that was going out there every 5th day before.
I haven't had a chance to hear your perspective on it. What did you? I mean, obviously you've been around Willie. I'm seeing different things from the night that he passed. That you had some comments, but for our audience now, just Willie Mays, your thoughts.
Well, one, it was a weird day, right? Because we're covering the game in Chicago, and we find out in about the 5th inning when the announcement was made, and we basically are told, because I was working the show that day, and we were basically told, forget about the game. We're doing all Willie. We don't know how long we're going to be on. Who can you guys get on the air? Blah blah blah. So it was at that point, it was kind of a shock. I mean, I don't think it was a shock. I mean, I think we all knew Willie was not in good health. But to hear it there, and for me, it was sad. It was really sad. But then you get into the show, and you have all these people calling in talking about Willie's stories and experiences, and you realize, not only was he, probably the best gifted player that ever played the game, but you hear the stories about what he did for kids, what he did for other people, his stance on certain topics, and you realize what a good man he was. And that's what I saw in the clubhouse all the time. Yeah, I had my talks with Willie about hitting and baseball and stuff, but I just loved sitting at the table and listening to his stories, because he had a million stories, man, and they always brought a smile to your face. And, once that day was said and done with us doing the show, I felt honored that I was actually there that day to do that show. Cause, I had a buddy of mine call me and said he was watching the show, and how really, it was coming across to everybody, and it was more of a celebration of Willie. And my buddy texted me, he's like, this could be one of the most important post-game shows the Giants have ever done. I didn't even think about it that way, but to have people tell me that, and to be able to be on it and to talk about Willie and to hear everybody else talk about him, it was a great honor for me to do that. And he will be sorely missed. I'm curious to see what the Giants are going to do this week to honor him. But again, I mean, an icon who basically crossed all lines between sports, culture, whatever, race. I mean, it was it was a really, really good show to do, and it was great to see everybody's comments over the past week about what they thought about Willie.
I text Carlos at night, Carlos Ramirez, who you work with, and I know Ron was up there with you. I thought you guys did an exceptional job with that post-game show, Richie. I was dialed in. The interviews were great. The stories were great. You guys were locked in, man. It was a hell of a show. You guys should be proud of that one.
It was fun. It was fun. And, sometimes they rely on us in situations like that to, like, get people to come on. And, honestly, you think of people first, right? And you're like,
right.
Who can you get on? Who can you get on? But, these people probably aren't going to be available. So I don't know why I thought of it. I just think maybe because of the way he played the game and the number he wore, I was like, I'm going to call Ken and Griffey and see if he'll come on. And I texted him, and I swear to you, he texted me back, within 3 minutes. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. I'll come on. I'm home, and just let me know when they want me on. So that was, you see the greats talking about the greats, right? And that's kind of, what the feel I got when Junior came on with us, and I was very appreciative that he did.
Nah, it was amazing. It was amazing television. You guys did a hell of a job. You're always doing an amazing job there. Are you still in town? Will you be on the show tonight?
I'm not on tonight, but I get Friday and Sunday Dodger games. Hopefully by that point they get out of this little rut, but we'll see. We'll see.
Hopefully they have a starting pitcher who can give them at least 5 innings by that point, Richie. This Keaton Wynn and Jordan Hicks, boy, it's getting rough for the Giants, but we appreciate the time, Richie. You're doing a hell of a job, and thanks for spending some time with us this morning.
All right, guys. Have a great day, man.
Anytime. You too, Richie. Rich Aurilia here on a Morning Roast on 95.7 The Aim. So Friday you were out. Spadoni was